Welcome to the Operatory, the podcast about burying dinosaurs in dentistry, moving past outdated technology and procedures to find a better way. I am super excited today. We've got a very special guest, Gary Kadi. He's the leader of NextLevel Practice, which is the leader in dental practice management. In fact, they're the best in the world at creating happy teams that implement sustainable results. He's an author, documentarian. Gary's books have sold over 100,000 copies, include $1 Million Dentistry, Raise Your Healthy Desire Level, The Dentist and Dentistry for the Millennial Mindset. His newest book, $1 Million Dentistry, Bounce Back from Anything, will be out in May. Obviously, a very important topic right now. He continues to bring national attention to the oral systemic connection and believes in the complete health dentistry model. Gary's a powerful educator and advocate for dentistry, dentists, and dental teams. He's inspired every day by the courage and personal successes of the doctors and dental team members that he has the privilege to work with. He's the visionary voice of NextLevel Practice and has been that for the last 20 years, interrupting the status quo of the dental world. He's an expert in crises also, having gone through 9/11, 2008, and now, as of this month, is 12 years sober, which is incredibly. Congrats, Gary. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Brian. I really appreciate that. What a privilege to be here with you.
Well, we've only known each other for a relatively short period of time, but man, I'm just always blown away with like how philosophically we're on the same wavelength, which in a lot of ways, which we do this podcast about is looking at the future, looking at how what's possible. And prior to COVID-19, there's a lot of stagnation in dentistry. I think that's been shaken up. And you hopped on board right away with developing this webinar series that I've just been honored to be part of, The Certainty in an Uncertain World. And you know, as I said at the top of the podcast, do so many progressive, amazing things in dentistry. And, one of the things that philosophies that you talk about is power versus force. And I have to admit, I don't fully understand it. So if you could explain to me kind of what you mean when you're talking about power versus force, I'll pretend that I know it. I should have probably pretended to know what you were talking about. It's just like, oh, could you tell the audience? But in reality, you have to please fill me in because I don't fully understand it.
Well, I'm an accidental expert on this, power versus force, because I was the jerk force guy that would just tell everybody what to do, micromanage. I was horrible at leading, and I realized that I had to get better at it. And so everything that I create is self-taught, self-tested, and then we implement it into practices, throughout the U.S. and Canada. And, the vantage point I have, Brian, is unique in that I make sure that I'm right where the boots are on the playing field, and I'm observing team meetings. I'm observing doctors, how they interact with team members. Are the team members responding, or is it like they're listening to a person but they're not really hearing them? And in today's world, post-pandemic, coming back in, you cannot have this. And also in organizations too. I go all the way up to the accountants organization. I have connections in high-level banking, connections in a top association. And so I have this wide landscape to look at, and I can see what's coming down the pike, and I can also anticipate what we're looking at from other countries, other industries, and then really codifying it and being a beacon of light for dentists on what to do now in a dark space. So that's how it was created, from my own inept ability to lead and watch. I would leave dead people behind me, Brian.
Yeah. And one of my friends says, he says, carry the wounded and shoot the stragglers is what he says.
That's good. That's good. But in today's world, it's just not going to work, especially because I'm really focusing on implementation. I mean, information without implementation has no value. I used to be the guy that would be espousing things from the stage and telling people you should do this, and they would smoke the CE, and this was before medical marijuana CE. They would smoke a good CE. They would get high as a kite fry, and they'd be like, "Ooh, the guy with the pride tie. This is awesome. I love this guy. He's awesome." And then they go back, and the platform that they were implementing it in front was nowhere near the starting level that you could receive the information that you learned on a Friday that you tried to implement on the Monday, and Tuesday was out of existence. So I decided to flatten all that and really focus not just on content, but implementation, because that's where the dental road hits the rubber dam. Listen to my rap today, man.
That's amazing. Yeah, I know. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. I resemble a lot what you were saying, although I'm not on the other end necessarily yet. But I'm still using too much force probably. But the way that I've seen it in like one of those personality tests that I took was that every positive trait and every negative trait is just two sides of the same coin. So like one of my actually it is my primary trait is champion, and the dark side of that is bully. And so that's kind of, does that resonate similar to what you're talking about?
Absolutely. It's the ground of being. See, there's three elements here in when you lead: being, doing, and having. Most people want to look at what they have. When I have this, then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to be powerful versus forceful. And so it's the other way around. You be powerful. You do the things that are necessary to be done. So be plus the do equals the have. It's like, I want to have $1 million. Then I'm going to do what I want to do, and then I'll be happy. No, you be happy. You do what you love to do, and you'll make $1 million. It's the reverse when it comes to leadership, because in leadership, if you are the decisive element, you could either escalate drama or you can minimize it. You can, when you speak to a person as they ought to be, they become it. If you hover down over them on what they're doing wrong, they perpetuate it.
Yeah, I think what's really cool, you're talking about this philosophically, but like you said, you codify this so that it makes it easy for dental teams, for dentists, for people who lead dental practices. So, when you talk about it, you make it's beautiful in theory, philosophically, but what's really cool about what you do, Gary, is that I've seen how you make this easy to apply for anybody. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So everything here, so I have the ability to get things to be understood. Then I have to get them translated and implemented. So how do you implement this? Well, it's very, very important to first understand the concept behind it. I'm going to give you this quote. This is my favorite quote that I came up with. She convinced against her will is of the same opinion still. She convinced against her will is of the same opinion still. Whether it's a dental team member to a patient, or it's a practice owner or team leader to a team member, the ground of operating, you have to get the willing. There's only one of two things. So to make this, like, I like tangible things. There's either willing team members or unwilling team members. There's willing patients or unwilling patients. So you can actually create everybody as willing and really determine. My grandfather said it best. He said, when the tongue in their shoe matches the tongue in their mouth, that's how you know they're willing, because they're marching toward where you're leading them. Is that clear, Bryan?
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah, no, yeah. I was processing it when you first said the quote, and and probably more reflecting on the number of times that I've broken that credo, and I've just tried to force people to the kind of to my way of thinking, which, like you say, is totally futile.
So here, go ahead, Bryan. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just feeling like I need to listen to this podcast more than anybody else who's listening to it. So appreciate it.
Believe me, I got my ass whooped. So when you do that and you realize you're ineffective, you got to find a new way. And that's what I love to do. And then I love to test it all out to make sure it works. So everything we do is proven, and it works 100% of the time when you work it. If you don't work it, that's the only time it doesn't work. We have this really commitment to everything we do in our company. It has to be predictable. It has to be aligned to the doctor's values. It has to be simple, and it has to be team driven. So that's the acronym PASS. predictable, aligned, simple, and team driven. So now how do we make this? How do we separate the willing and unwilling? We call it the line in the sand. So I take every theory that we put out and then I give it steps, because 75% of dentists are humanist methodical. They care deeply about people and they want to know the steps to get there. So here's the 5-step process to have the team come on board to your playing field versus theirs. Let's say you're playing golf and they're playing football. Your team's playing football and you're playing golf. You want to get on the football field, but you want to make sure that you're the quarterback, not them. That's the problem here, where when people try to implement, the team's really saying how things are going to be implemented through their actions, versus you can tell them till you're purple in the face, but if they're not willing, they're not going to implement. And if they don't implement, the practice isn't going to grow. And in today's world, if you're not effective at educating a patient because of the unemployment rate, because of our economy on the backside of this, you have to be outstanding at case acceptance. If you are not going to be able to have a profitable practice, period, end of story. It's not like this is a nice thing to do. This is the source of case acceptance and running a successful practice, this distinction, power versus force.
Yeah.
So let's get into the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I should give you the space. I should give you the space, darn it, but I'm jacked up here. And you're only giving me 15 minutes.
I mean, I appreciate it. And I just wanted to reiterate, because, the reason why I wanted to pause you is because I've seen the steps and the depth to your training, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's, you laid it out very well, and how dentists are methodical, but your platform is fantastic. And I think that, from somebody who's seen lots of platforms, talked to lots of practice management systems, I mean, you really do an amazing job doing what you said, which is getting the team sort of like playing on the same side as the dentist, as the practice, getting everybody in alignment. Because as listeners to this podcast know, one of the reasons, probably the primary reason why I love dentistry, is when done right, everybody wins. And you make it easy for that to be. So no, sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to emphasize the quality of your content and how you do it. Because, it's people listening might go, that sounds good. But I mean, I really do think it's, you do it in a special way that makes it easy for team members to get on board. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Brian, for that. And it's only because I sat in everyone's chair and figured out from a team member's perspective and a patient's viewpoint, what do they need and why do they need it? And why are they not engaged? And so I figured that answer out. Once you figure that answer, that's our Coca-Cola syrup serum. That's our KFC, special crust on our chicken. And when you can get team engagement, all of a sudden, a learning platform, a training center, a alignment to a doctor changes dramatically, because now there's something in it for them. And when you do that, then you can create this. Let me give you the 5 steps that get your team lined up so you can eliminate force and put in power. And it goes like this. It's, you meet with your team and you say, number 1, team, love you, respect you. And then you go around, Lisa, Betty, Sally, Brittany, thank you for your service. The second is, I'm taking a new level of responsibility as your leader. We're in a new world today. I know I haven't led as powerfully. One of the number 1 things, Brian, here is to self-deprecate, acknowledge, because the only time you're going to create a vacuum to have the team member come on board is if you go first and you say the things that you have, in your mind, not from a guilt or shame standpoint, but from a responsibility standpoint, distinguish areas that that they know are not a top dog. So you just say, you see that
100%.
creates, you see that vacuum. It's like, he's not blaming us, so therefore we have to change how we're going to listen to this. This is a proven, powerful dynamic that creates the listening for the team. Once you have that team, I just want to say, and doctors cry. I've had doctors cry here. I've had doctors be moved, because they really got straight about themselves, and they in the program I'm in, Brian, once I had to apologize to everybody that I affected from my drinking. And when you do that, you get peace, because you're carrying the burden of your shame and guilt, of infliction of pain. And you think you don't have that being built up. But once you release it, you're free. You're really set free. And so that second step is a very powerful step where you take responsibility as a leader of the practice. Step number 3 is what got us here is not going to get us to where we're going. This is the official line in the sand statement. You're now letting your team know what you signed up with before this moment is not where you're going, and you can actually say that. What got us here is not going to get us there. You didn't sign up for where we're going, so I want to give you the opportunity for you to prepare. See, this creates what my wife does this beautifully. She creates the chase, Bryan. I will never leave my wife because she's always a step ahead and she doesn't let me catch up. You know what I'm saying? Smart women know how to do this. Otherwise, guys start looking around. You with me? Does this make sense? What I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, no. I think I'm trying not to interrupt you because I love the steps that you're going through, man. I think it's fantastic. No, so I think I think you're right on.
The space creation, like, because team members know they have the doctor, and what happens is and I'm sorry for that interruption. It was my chiropractor calling me for my appointment. Can I continue?
Oh, please do. I couldn't even hear it, so we're good.
All right, good. So what happens is now you create the chase. Now the team's chasing you. And now before the pandemic, unemployment was low. Now it's not. If you don't have a group of engaged, grateful people, if you have a group of people that are counterintentional, defiant, and entitled, please don't go back to work with them. You're going to have to end up deploying force because that's what they're used to. Don't do that. Do not do that because you're going to be bumping into effort. And here's the thing. We're going to have to implement 25 times more things than we did before just to have safety present. And if you were not getting 25% of the 100% of the things that you had to do, you're never going to get to where you need to be profitable. So we want to get you fixed right now. Do not go back with a team that's unwilling. And this step right here, you're inviting them to come. This is what you say. What got us here is going to get us to where we're going. I'm inviting you to come to the next generation of our practice. Are you on board, Brittany? Are you on board, Betty? Are you on board, Lisa? They're saying yes. They might mean no, but you just drew a line in the sand, and now you have their word that they're now moving forward with you. Now, if you see somebody with their arms crossed and they're gritting their teeth, you might want to pull them aside and say, look, and you have a past with that person. Don't put up with that. Just say, you have an opportunity to come on board. I'm going to be giving you direction. If you're willing to follow me, this is your practice. If not, it's completely fine. You have to learn to detach with love. Detach with love here. If they're not ready to play, you are going to have so many team members that you can hire. I promise you, especially when you put in something, what we call a complete health practice. This is what you say next. Where we're going is the old drill, fill, and PPO mill is no longer going to be in existence. That's going to be for, our great DSOs, and we support them. They're awesome. They're going to be doing that. But as a private practice, we're going to be creating a quality service model. We're not going to be quality and price or service and price. We are a quality and service model. And we are going to be delivering whole body health. That means we're going to be doing airway. This is where the puck is going to be, team, because, we now know hydrogen peroxide. If we use PeriProtect, we can get down 9 millimeters, and hydrogen peroxide is validated by the ADA. They should be swishing 30 seconds twice before we treat them. We now know that hydrogen peroxide plays an integral role. People are wearing masks. Patients now know the mouth matters. They're not wearing eye patches or ear muffs. They're wearing masks. So they know the mouth matters. We need to be able to speak to them. They know what the word asymptomatic means. We have to have a healthy mouth baseline that allows them to understand what's healthy and what's not, even though there's symptoms not present. We're going to be needing to educate from a completely different place, and I need you on board to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that the best sort of messages that we as leaders can get out there, particularly to team members, are attract the right people and repel the wrong ones. And so you're drawing the line in the sand does exactly that, right? And you'll get some people will be jazzed about it, and you'll feel that energy, and other people will become an anchor, and you'll feel that energy. And I think that's a key thing to do. So so you're I think you got through all 5 steps. I think but that's great advice to people on how to lead through this crisis. So thank you.
Yeah, Oh, it's a pleasure. Last thing I would just say is, I don't know, I might have messed the numbers up, Bryan, but it is a 5-step process. The last step would be, what do you need for me to be successful? This is where it shows partnership on the back and heals the scab that you just tore off, that they have to follow you. And then it's a nice little salve that you put on that says, love you, here for you, what do you need from me? And then that completes that dialogue. And now, if you get off the rails, now you can take them back to that conversation.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And in there you also highlighted another just phenomenal philosophy that going forward, I agree with you, where the puck is going in dentistry is more complete health, less just focusing on being restoring teeth, more on overall health. And
Mm-hmm.
do you incorporate that, I'm assuming, into your practice management philosophies too, for all practices? Is that correct?
Oh yeah, my dad had a heart attack, and the hygienist goes, "Well, how was his perio?" And that day changed my life forever. I realized that there was no patient education system that connected the mouth and the body, so we invented one. Sort of like Porsche, Ferry Porsche said, I couldn't find a sports car that I loved, so I built my own, and that's what we did. 12 years ago, we built the first complete health practice, and now we have cardiologists and dentists under one roof in Ohio, and we have collaborative whole body health, airway work. It is, so far advanced. And it doesn't mean that you have to be like an expert in medicine. You just have to educate from the place of medical history form. So vital in today's world. I used to check off I was pregnant, Bryan, when I would go to a dental office, and nobody would ask me what trimester I was in.
Oh, I laugh, but you're exactly right. Documentation is kind of a joke in dentistry and how we view it, and I think that's changing now. Like, not changing slowly. Things that were kind of changing over time right now with this pandemic. There's a light switch that got flipped, like you're talking about, in our team members and our patients' minds. And so even if we as the dentist or the leader thinks that, we have time to adjust, we don't, because the other person has already, the transformation's been changed in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I very much appreciate everything you're doing in dentistry. It's fantastic, and I appreciate you being on the podcast, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bryan.
Well, where can people go to find out more information and get signed up for your programs?
I think the easiest way is to go to the website at nextlevelpractice.com, NEXTLEVEL practice.com. That's a great place to really get our programs are laid out. We have 3 different levels, silver, platinum, and silver, gold, platinum. I personally work with everybody. I have a 1-month program that I work with everybody to make sure we're a good fit and aligned with values before you come on board. So we don't want to waste any time or money for dentists. They're just too busy as it is. So we have, an initial program to make sure that we're an aligned fit, and that works really well. We've been doing this for a lot of years. I've done over 6,000 practices personally, and I'm involved. I'm hands-on. I love seeing the transformation in dental practices.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time and spreading the knowledge to the Operatory audience.
You bet, man. I'm very grateful. I'm looking forward to connecting with your community as we march forward.
Likewise, sir. Well, so go to nextlevelpractice.com.
Thank you.